is the news feed at 6.
Cheers to totality. Celebrations for the total solar eclipse spread all across DFW, including here at TCC. We have team coverage of the event district-wide. And what should you do with those eclipse glasses? We'll have the latest.
Plus, HEB has opened a new location in Tarrant County, how this all connects to the county's growth and more. Coming up. Glad you could join us for the Newsfeed at 6. I'm Isabel Price.
And I'm John Patterson. We're following several local and national stories tonight, but first we need to start right here at TCC, as all campuses were in the path of totality for a solar eclipse.
All 5 campuses held watch parties, and we had team coverage at 2 of those locations. So let's start with our Fosia Abdullahi from the Northeast campus. Fosia, the feeling at this event and many events across Texas was hard to describe with words, just stunning sights all around.
Hey, yeah, Izzy and John, I couldn't have said it better myself. Students here at Northeast Campus came out to observe this major once-in-a-lifetime event. There was laughter, there was music, there was so much joy, and more importantly, there was community building. I had a chance to speak with students and staff and community members who all came out to enjoy this event. There was so much love in the air, and that was before we reached totality. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Every 300 or so years, North Texas is in the path of totality of a solar eclipse. And Monday, TCC students had that exact rare opportunity as Northeast Campus hosted a total solar eclipse watch party, with many students and community members excited to witness totality.
Today's been kind of cool. Like, we've seen the sun starting to get covered by the moon little by little. We're still waiting for the big eclipse.
Not only were students prepared to witness the event, but they, along with community members, had cameras ready to capture this event to preserve it forever.
I really want to get the sun and the moon perfectly aligned with it shooting out the background. I got some really good ones at the beginning, and I want to get one at the beginning and the end where the moon is possibly in the same spot.
Leading up to totality, concerns over the cloud cover was at the top of their minds, like this community member explains.
The main thing is getting it pictures as the point that it reaches totality. That's critical. That's where I'm still nervous about the clouds, because the clouds are there. That's, you're not going to see it, but I'm going to be taking all sorts of pictures at all different speeds.
And they didn't have to wait long for those pics. As the clouds began to clear, the moment of truth finally arrived. So at this point in the eclipse, we've reached totality. And as you can see all around campus, it's gotten dark. The street lights have come on because they think that it's nighttime now. And then if you look up at the sky, you can see that the sun is completely covered except for the outline of it. And also if you can see that the cloud has broken up. And students didn't take this opportunity for granted. The crowd stayed for the entire duration of totality, just taking in the stunning beauty of the eclipse.
I've never seen anything like that before, and it sucks that we're not going to be able to see anything like that for a really long time, at least in this area. I'm moving somewhere else to see this again, I swear. But it was just stunning.
This is my first time actually seeing this. I flew to Kansas City in 2017 attempting to see totality because it also occurred on my birthday. It was cloudy. I'm incredibly grateful to be able to see this amazing sight. That was incredible.
It was just awe-inspiring to have everybody around us. We started to see it. It was going slow, slow, slow. And then we all shouted. We were like, woo, we got there. We finally get to see it.
I liked it when the professor was like, okay, you can take off your glasses now. And then we all looked at it. That was pretty cool.
And that professor, one of the most enthusiastic members at the event, Professor Raymond Benji of the Physics and Astronomy Department, gave real-time commentary on what the students were seeing from start to finish and highlighted the significance of this event.
It was fairly comparable to what I was expecting, except for I was hoping for fewer clouds. You know, so we were fighting the clouds throughout the whole event, but we actually got this in. First eclipse in Tarrant County since 1878, so this is a big deal. You know, we didn't have to go anywhere for it. Next time you get one that's within the continental United States, it's going to be a long time from now. That's what makes this so special.
And not only was the event historic, it was also symbolic for some onlookers trying to tie in their own faith to the eclipse.
I have always equivalized symbolically the sun with the Son of God. And when the moon passes, the moon growing up through childhood is referred to as the man in the moon. I always seem to see a woman's face, but regardless, today, that was like them kissing, however you see that.
Yeah, and everyone got to see the eclipse and interpret it in their own way. You saw people really taking into account the gravity of the situation, as TCC won't be experiencing another solar eclipse in totality until 2317. People kept that in mind as they looked above them for the light and the darkness. Live from Northeast Campus, Fozia Abdullahi, the Newsfeed at 6.
All right, Fosia, amazing work as always. Clearly, as you said, there was so much joy at Northeast. So glad to see it. Fosia, thank you. And as we said, we weren't just at one campus to view the eclipse, so let's go live to our Hope Smith at Northwest Campus. Hope, pretty close to the same story and turnout over there, huh?
Hey, Izzy and John. Yes, the eclipse was incredible here at Northwest Campus. They had a watch party set up in front of the NW05 building in the grass. Students had lawn chairs, they were sitting down, they were looking up at the sky with the ISO-approved sunglasses. These were handed out by the student activities. Along with them was the physical science department. They had a digital telescope set up, and Ahmad Nimri, a physics instructor, was running it. He was live streaming the eclipse close up, and students were able to view it on a screen under the tent. As the eclipse happened, the crowds were cheering. It was incredible to see the corona glimmering above. And Northwest Network Administrator Owen Greer commented afterwards that everybody needs to see something like this. This is truly an incredible experience for students, as this will not happen again in America until 2044. Now, if you're willing to travel, then you can go ahead and see that. But as Fozia said earlier, it's going to be a while before we see it here locally. Live at Northwest Campus, Hope Smith, the Newsfeed at 6.
Thank you so much, Hope, our editor-in-chief right here at the Collegian. Now that the eclipse is over, you may be wondering what to do with your eclipse glasses. There are a number of organizations that recycle or reuse them. Astronomers Without Borders has been accepting donations of eclipse glasses for 15 years. They partner with organizations where you can drop off or mail used glasses, including retailers like Warby Parker. You can also send them to Eclipse Glasses USA, which repurposes used glasses for future celestial events. Or you could just pack your glasses away for the next major eclipse in 20 years.
All right, and here's hoping that those of you at home actually got a chance to see the eclipse. I know the weather was a little bit messy in some areas, but looking at the weather going forward, what's the week going to look like, Lauren?
That's right. We're still seeing the effect of that solar eclipse that we had earlier on Monday. Right now, 58 degrees, clear skies. We may see some showers across the area, nothing too severe. Tonight, we'll get as low as 53 degrees, a lot cooler than what we've seen previously. Across the Metroplex, you'll notice pretty consistent temperatures, 58, 59, Fort Worth, Dallas, respectively. Up north, Denton, 67, a little bit warmer. Now, the rest of the evening, we're going to continue on that thick cloud cover. 7 p.m. throughout the evening, that overcast, 57, 55 at 10. Again, it's going to be a little bit cooler. Coming up, we'll look at that 7-day forecast, including that precipitation that we can expect next week.
Thank you so much, Lauren. All new at 6 tonight, a family is suing UT Southwestern after a man died at a medical center while he was in the hospital's custody. The family's attorney just released video of the moments leading up to his death.
Let go over here. On the floor.
Kenneth Knott's family says he died receiving mental health care 2 years ago. The body cam video you're looking at shows him face down, surrounded by officers working to remove handcuffs. Knott says he can't breathe and then he loses consciousness. The Dallas County medical examiner ruled his death as a homicide last year, but a grand jury declined to indict any of the officers involved. The Knott's family has filed an excessive force lawsuit against UT Southwestern, and they do want a jury trial. An update now related to that Dallas anesthesiologist accused of poisoning IV bags. We brought the story to you last week when the trial began against Dr. Ronald Ortiz, and now both sides have rested their cases. With everything out on the table, we now know the extent of the evidence against Ortiz. You've already seen this surveillance video of Ortiz with the IV bags and heard 4 patients who said they experienced complications. Newly released surgical records show tests that found dangerous drugs present in both the patients themselves and their IV bags. Dr. Stacey Hale testified for the prosecution, saying together it all forms a pattern indicative of poisoning. A key defense witness, a woman who worked with Ortiz for 20 years, says some of the behavior doctors consider unusual is quite normal for Ortiz. For example, She says he'll pick up a mop and clean the halls when needed. The jury is expected to begin deliberating as soon as tomorrow.
Happening tomorrow, TCC Board of Trustees will have their monthly meeting where they will consider and approve a variety of items, including the consideration and approval of increased expenditure authority through cooperative agreements, state contracts, and interlocal agreements for furniture purchases for the 2023 and 2024 fiscal year. The board will also review service authorization with Hoeffer Walker Architects for design services for the natatorium and envelope restoration at South Campus. The public can and are encouraged to sign up for public comment to the board. The meeting will begin at 6 p.m. at the Trinity River campus. The University of Texas at Dallas confirms it is laying off about 20 workers at the end of the month. The university says it is part of the effort to comply with the new state law that prohibits state universities from having diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. Employees losing their jobs are able to apply for other positions. Last week, UT Austin laid off about 60 workers on that campus to comply with the law.
This morning, H-E-B officially opened a store in Tarrant County. The rapidly growing Alliance Town Center in North Fort Worth celebrated day one of the iconic store's opening with massive turnouts, with people waiting in line since 7 p.m. last night. This is the first H-E-B to open in Tarrant County. The first couple shoppers at this new location say H-E-B isn't just a store, but it's a community. Now, Fort Worth has been on the national stage as one of the fastest growing cities in the country. To other Texans who still don't have an H-E-B in their area, we're told to be patient. They plan to open more in Texas, but are mainly focusing on cities that has this much rapid growth. Coming up on your health feed, you'll want to hear this. A new study reveals an unexpected spike in suicide among student athletes. Another terrifying sight mid-flight. Southwest airline passengers are demanding answers after the flap covering the engine fell off. Keep it right here. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Mom was always very self-sufficient, but we started noticing things were off.
I was forgetting my responsibilities at work.
I told Mom we should visit a doctor.
Alzheimer's. It was hard to hear that.
Early detection gave us time to seek information and support as a family. I've never felt more connected with Mom.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She carried 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
It's live television. It's supposed to be stressful.
Owen, when you came into my life, it was a whirlwind.
I just can't do it.
We didn't know what the future would hold, but we knew you would always be a part of it. Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I am so proud to call you my son.
Welcome back to the newsfeed at 6. Now on to some scary moments aboard a Southwest Airlines jet on Sunday. A plane that left Denver's International Airport for Houston had to make an emergency landing back in Denver after an airplane cover fell off during takeoff. As you can see, the cover struck part of the plane's wing. The FlightAware says the plane returned safely to Denver about 35 minutes after it took off. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Passengers were put on a different jet and flown to Houston. The Federal Aviation Administration is investigating the incident.
Keeping an eye on your health feed, suicide rates have been rising among all ages in the U.S., but they are spiking in a group you might not expect: college athletes. It's now the second leading cause of death in those playing university sports. According to the British Journal of Sports Medicine, the suicide rate for college athletes has doubled in just 2 decades. The finding is surprising because of all the resources available from coaches, teammates, and the schools themselves. Researchers aren't sure why suicide is soaring. One thought is that the stress of being in the spotlight and being subject to outside criticism on social media.
The second most common cancer in the U.S. in women. About 240,000 cases of breast cancer in women were diagnosed in 2020, and the CDC says regular mammograms are the best way to find the disease early. But a new study reveals women are facing numerous barriers in getting this potentially life-saving screening. Mandy Gaither looks at the research and what experts say needs to happen to ensure health care for all.
It's an important weapon in the war against breast cancer. Mammograms can help detect signs of the disease earlier when it's more easily treated. But a new CDC study reveals many women still find it difficult to get this recommended screening.
Those of us who have been working in this space have known that these barriers exist. We've known this for years.
The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force recommends mammograms every 2 years for women ages 50 to 74, but researchers say only about 66% of women in that age group get a mammogram if they have 3 or more health-related social needs. Those can include food insecurity, feeling socially isolated, lack of reliable transportation, lost employment, or a reduction in hours. The cost of accessing health care was the biggest barrier.
Institutions need to be aware that they have to ask about these social determinants of health. And if you ask, then you can have a plan in place to address the needs.
Electra Paskett, director of the Center for Cancer Health Equity at Ohio State's Comprehensive Cancer Center, says healthcare providers need to do barrier assessments in order to identify things like financial issues that may stop people from getting mammograms and find solutions to address them.
I'm a 3-time breast cancer survivor. My first cancer was diagnosed 27 years ago on a mammogram. It was extremely small, the size of my pinky, top of my pinky, and I'm still here, so mammography works.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Coming up, Texans further south are experiencing massive flooding. How you can help the community and how rescuers plan to address the crisis coming up.
Jason, let's go see your room.
How you doing? Hey, Mason. Hey, Mason. Thank you.
A place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Southeast Texans saw flash floods, fierce winds, baseball-sized hail, and tornadoes from a severe storm. Officials warned the system would bring a lot of rain, and with that, a risk of deadly flooding. Kirbyville, Texas, was left in distress this morning after the storm caused severe flooding. Emergency crews responded to at least 10 water rescues. The Pin Oak Creek is now in major flood stage after rising 10 feet in 6 hours. In addition to flooding, the storms also caused major damage to several businesses.
And sticking with these storms, an animal shelter in Jacksonville, Texas is desperate for fosters because of what you see here. Daniel Kent County Roads Rescue flooded last night, leaving some dogs standing in water in their kennels. Rescue workers say all the dogs are okay. While this has happened before, it's the worst it's been in years, and some of the incoming water is contaminated. The water has receded for now, but more rain is expected. The shelter says even if more people can only foster a dog for a night, it would be very helpful. And now on to weather. Lauren, is there any more rain on the horizon for us here at DFW?
Right now, we're at a very comfortable 58 degrees, clear skies. We may see some precipitation across the area, nothing to be alarmed about. The night low is at 53 degrees, significantly cooler than what we've seen in these previous days. Across the Metroplex, Fort Worth 58, up north, Seymour 63, Longview 64, very consistent across the board. Throughout the evening, you'll notice dense cloud cover until 10 p.m., 59 at 7, and that's getting as low as 55 at 10 before we reach 53 that we mentioned previously. The precipitation, those storms that we saw earlier, that's continuing to move east. New Orleans, you'll get the heaviest of that precipitation before it continues to head toward the Atlantic Ocean. Again, in North Texas, we've passed that. Those systems were relatively minor. Scale 1 out of that scale of 5. No hail was expected, but that's subject to change, just like every weather condition in Texas. Though that flood watch we saw around 3, it ends around 7 p.m., so we won't see anything too extreme. However, with that moving precipitation comes those flood warnings as it passes over Louisiana, Alabama, and into Florida. Tomorrow, we'll get some sun, some much needed sun. High is 74. That's going to continue on into Friday, 81 for the high. Saturday, we'll see some winds pick up, but those temperatures are staying very comfortable, very typical for spring here in Texas. The next 7 days, Izzy, you'll notice those temperatures are starting to rise, something we can expect with those upcoming summer months. We won't get any precipitation for the rest of the week, very unusual for here in Texas, until Wednesday. It's currently a 40% chance of rain, nothing too severe at this time.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Crews have started removing shipping containers from the Dolly in Baltimore almost 2 weeks after it slammed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, causing it to collapse. The U.S. Coast Guard said it is working to take enough weight off of the ship so it can eventually be moved. Once enough debris is removed, they can also reopen the channel to larger commercial ships. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has said it plans to fully reopen the channel by the end of May.
President Biden hosted Japanese Prime Minister Kishida for a state visit today, which included a bilateral meeting in the Oval Office. The leaders discussed efforts to strengthen political security and economic ties between the U.S. and Japan, including changes to the U.S. force structure in Japan to improve how both countries' forces are integrated. The leaders also talked about space collaboration, as Japan has expressed interest in landing its first astronaut on the moon. This comes as both countries seek to counterbalance China's influence worldwide. Next at 6, we are just a few days away from tax day, and scammers are using AI to trick you into using your tax refunds. How you can avoid these scams is next.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. As veterans, we can tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. But you've never been interested in easy. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right? It's comfortable. So how's civilian life treating you? It's fine. When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because it felt like a failure. And then I realized, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay. Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
I taught for 20 years, but I started forgetting my lectures. Eventually, he had to quit. My therapist recommended we go to the doctor.
The early Alzheimer's diagnosis allowed us to take control of the situation.
He's been such a positive force and so loving. Thank you. You're welcome.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
What are you doing in there?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Tonight in your consumer feed, if you or a family member has student loan debt, relief might be coming your way. The Biden administration is trying to erase some of what people owe. The White House says the new strategy would help more than 30 million borrowers. That if it's implemented, combined with the plans the administration has enacted already. The initiative targets federal borrowers who have unpaid interest beyond a certain threshold, 20 or more years in repayment, eligibility for loan programs in which they're not enrolled, education from a so-called low financial value program, and certain hardships like medical debt. Critics say taxpayers who didn't go to college shouldn't fund the degrees for those who did.
And tax day is less than a week away, and many Americans are getting or will soon get a refund. And the IRS is warning taxpayers to be on alert for scams. Jen Sullivan has tips on how to better protect yourself.
It's the time of year where Americans are filing their taxes and waiting for a possible refund, and scammers are seizing on an opportunity to make some money of their own. The IRS is warning taxpayers to watch out for fake letters asking recipients to provide personal information to receive an unclaimed refund. These letters even have the IRS letterhead to make them look legitimate.
When those bad actors borrow the name and the legitimacy of that government agency, we tend to trust that. And especially when you're talking about the IRS.
Eva Velasquez is the president and CEO of Identity Theft Resource Center, a nonprofit that provides resources to victims of scams. She says advancing technologies like AI is making it easier for fraudsters to target people.
They are getting much more sophisticated.
The amount of money lost to scams have gone up 14% in the last year, according to recent data from the Federal Trade Commission. 2.6 million people reported being scammed, with consumers losing more than $10 billion.
People are being lied to, and they believe those lies because of the limited amount of experience that we have.
The IRS says they'll never contact taxpayers by email, text, or through social media for a bill or tax refund. If you do get a letter in the mail, double check the phone number and make sure it matches the number on the IRS.gov website. And if you do think you've become a victim of a scam, report it to authorities, including the IRS or law enforcement or the Federal Trade Commission. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
The eclipse may be over, but one newborn will be reminded of the historic event for a long time.
We'll have all the details coming up in 2 minutes.
Slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.com.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Everyone deserves to live a full life. And with your help, together we can end hunger. Join the movement at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
I am what hunger looks like in America. I am an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for the last day of school. Because this may be the last time I'll have lunch. Till September. I am a single father of 2 who works 3 part-time jobs. And that's still not enough to put food on the table. I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
One New Jersey couple experienced a little ray of sunshine during Monday's solar eclipse. Evelyn Shue made her earthly debut at 2:27 p.m. Eastern, which is when the moon started to block the sun.
Her mother Sarah says the celestial activity may have played a factor in Evelyn's birth, as she arrived 2 days early. Evelyn is healthy at 6 pounds 9 ounces, and she has bragging rights of being born during an eclipse. Her parents hope that will bring her a lifetime of good luck. Well, that's pretty interesting, huh?
I know. Thank you so much for joining us on the Newsfeed. We'll see you, Friday at noon. Have a great day and great news.